New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello there. It's me, yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. And I am a life coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a soul collage facilitator, all wrapped into one today to just speak to you on grief. And if you are new, if this is your first time here with me, I just welcome you. I welcome you, and I want you to know that you have come to the right place as you navigate your personal journey for grief. And if you're returning, oh, I'm so honored that we get to have another conversation together. And I just invite you to be a part of the conversation. Make this hour your hour. Drop a comment in the comment box or a question or anything that you would like to share. I would just be so honored to hear from you. And so with that said, viewers, listeners, I just want to say that it's with a sad heart that I come here again today with news of more loss in our world. And I'm speaking of the Turkey and Syrian earthquake that has taken so many lives that it's even difficult for me to wrap my head around the number of souls that have gone up, that have gone before us. And I am one of these people that I know watching the news is not good for me. So for me, it's like the less news, the better. But I kept hearing about the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. And I thought I would just watch to see what was happening. And I am just still just torn apart by the images of buildings just collapsing and hearing the cries and the wails of those that are still here and maybe suffering, or not maybe, but I know that are suffering. So I want to take this moment to just offer a moment of silence, and I mean a true moment of silence, that we pay homage to those lives that have gone before us. So just taking, first exhaling all the breath that's in your lungs, just exhaling. And now inhaling, just taking a deep breath in and holding those that have gone before us in your hearts and holding them with love. Thank you. Thank you for honoring those. Other things that you may want to do when we are moving through collective grief. And this is where we are now. Collectively, we've all suffered, along with the people in both countries. We have all suffered in that pain of just knowing what it's like, imagining what it's like to have lost so many people at one time, and still the devastation of having to repair your life afterwards. So this is a time of collective grief. And one of the aspects of collective grief that can bring comfort or solace is that mourning together, that we come together to mourn the loss of those lives. And there are rituals, and ceremonies that we can participate in collectively together. The thing about collective grief is that we're not in it alone. We feel the energies of our brothers and sisters. And that can be a very positive thing, because so many times grief just thrusts us into this state of feeling isolated and alone. But with collective grief, we can reach out to each other, reach out and support each other. And this is one of those times I don't usually advocate that people collect money or do any of those things, but this can help with the grieving process, to be a part of maybe a relief effort, or if you wanted to have a fundraiser to send funds to that part of the world, that is something that can be done. You can collect goods and clothing that can be sent. Not everything has to cost, especially if you're feeling that, oh, I'm not in that position right now. Know that there are so many other things that you can do. Reach out to relief organizations and see what help they need. Maybe they just need help packing and preparing boxes to be shipped. But just knowing that there is something that you can do. And in that doing, that does allow us to have some sense of control. Because when natural disasters happen like this, that is our first instinct. Oh my goodness. There's no control. I don't know what's going to happen next. But when you get involved in doing things to help those that are in need, that can bring a sense of solace or comfort to your own soul, to know that you have done something. And I also say, for your personal grieving, you can light a candle. That's what I've done. I lit a candle just to honor those that have given their lives, so that us that are still here can come together in a unified manner. And I just offer this. Please, please, please limit your time in front of the television. Limit your time watching the news. How much of this can you really absorb before then your own personal energies become a little scattered or unsettled or uneasy? So be gentle with yourselves during this time. As I said, limit the amount of time that you spend watching the news. Unfortunately, the news in our cultures can just create more anxiety. I'm originally from California, and I know that earthquakes are quite common there. And I just happened to see a little snippet on the news where they were talking about the seismology of the buildings, and just really not doing anything to dispel the fear, but if anything, really amping it up and getting getting people kind of in a state of anxiety. So that's why I say, for your own well-being, please, please, please limit your time with the news. And I don't have a guest today. And I thought that it was time maybe not to have a guest. So many people listen and watch, and I love having a guest and interviewing people and talking to them and finding out about their stories and their philosophy and ideas on grief. And I love nothing more than that, than listening to people. But I thought today, maybe you should hear, maybe I should share my personal story with grief and how I came to be doing the work that I am doing. So I thought that would be, it would be time. And I've had quite a few people over the last, maybe just the last week, to ask me more about a doula. It's like, I've heard of a doula for birth, but I've never heard of a grief doula. And I just thought, wow, I should explain that a little bit more. And as I say, I am a grief coach and a registered nurse, and those have just gone hand in hand forever. And as far as a doula, and as most of you have said, you've heard of a doula for birth, and that doula sits with you during that very emotional and physically trying time of laboring, of giving birth, and of just transitioning into that next phase of being just not a pregnant mom, but now a mom with a baby. And I associate being a doula is that is what I do with those that are in grief. I sit with you as you're navigating that pain of grief, as you're navigating that pain of grief. And I sit with you as you transition into what is your next to become after moving through this period of grief. As you know, or if you don't know, I always say that grief has transformative powers. There is no way that you can go through grief or go through a period of grieving and come out on the other side as the same person. No, that is not true. You will be transformed. And that is what I do with my clients. Sit with you. I say that I hold the light to illuminate your path so that you can continue to navigate that path without getting lost in the darkness. So I hope that helps a little bit with understanding a grief doula. And when I do grief coaching, it's the same. It's one and the same, that I really offer you ways of viewing grief, ways of being with your grief, ways of being with your grief, befriending it, leaning into it, and then navigating that path to your next greatest to be. So with that, I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, I will share my story with grief and how I got to be a doula for grief. So I'll see you in a few minutes.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. positively inspiring. On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings. New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for staying tuned and just look forward to continuing this hour with you. And as I said, please drop a note or a comment in the comment box. I would love to hear from you or just have you as a part of the hour. So I said that I would tell you my story. I listen to everyone that comes on with their stories of grief and ideas, and I'm just always just in awe of people's story. I am even more in awe, it just came to me, of the human resilience to move through deep levels of grief and come out whole on the other side. And just my weekly disclaimer, and not disclaimer, but just to clarify, that loss is what we experience and grief is what we feel. And loss shows up in so many ways. Death, loss of a lifestyle, divorce, jobs, body image, so many different losses. And that's what thrust us into grief. And grief are all those emotions that we feel: sadness, loss of control, rage, intense feeling of sadness. I was sharing with Reverend Jim Webb last night on his show that there are those 5 stages of grief that you hear so much about. And one person asked, is being a jerk one of those stages? So I was going to say any emotion that comes up, even if it's being a jerk or being angry, yes, that can be one of those 5 stages of grief. But just listening to others speak, there's so many deeper layers of grief. And so, as I said, I wanted to share my story. It does start with the loss of my mom. It's been about 7 years ago now. But my mom was, I just say my mom was a real pistol. We'll just put it that way. High-spirited woman. And she and my father really taught me how to die. They were both so at peace and so ready, both of them. My father was very young, but still he was at peace with the idea, with the thought and knowing that he was going to die. And my mom was just ready. She would say, I don't know why God still has me here. I'm done. I'm ready to go. And she was only 85. And I just remember her last words to me. It's like, Bonnie, when God closes my eyes, I want you to leave them closed. And that meant no resuscitation, none of the heroics that we all know so much about, being resuscitated or doing everything that can be done. So my mom was ready. She was ready. So her death for me was sad, but not traumatic in any way. And she died peacefully, and I got to be with her posthumously. I got to bathe her and do all those things, postnatal care with her. And so I was just at peace with my mom, just at peace with my mom's death. But then 2 years later, my brother-in-law, 49 years old, sitting outside, sunning himself in the California sun, just dropped dead, just like that, 49 years old, leaving my sister and the entire family just totally devastated, decimated. Just, that was really a hard death, because sudden deaths, there are no warnings, there's no getting prepared. There is just 1 second here, the next second gone. And needless to say, we all rallied around my sister to really support her, and still supporting her now. And it'll be 5 years this year, but we're still right there supporting her. Because I said that is a traumatic death. And then fast forward from there, 2 years later, my baby brother, Melvin, got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And it was just a shocker. He just went to the emergency room one day with abdominal pain. And the doctor just came in the next day and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mr. Speaks, for your condition." And he didn't even know. He was like, sorry about what? And that's when he learned that he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And for those of you that know cancers, that is really a high mortality rate with pancreatic cancer. And it was just ravishing. And he lived for about 6 months after receiving his diagnosis. I was going to say tomorrow will be his anniversary, the anniversary date of his death on Valentine's Day. And I had a dear, sweet friend I'll never forget, who sat up to my brother died. It was on Valentine's Day. And she just said, "Oh, Bonnie, your brother died on a day that's filled with love. He was surrounded by love." And that could be nothing further from the truth. My sister, myself, and his wife were right there with him at the bedside when he took his last breath. And to lose a sibling, it's really, to lose a parent, that's expected that our parents will go before us. But siblings, that is just another whole level of loss. Another level of loss. It's almost, I use this word, a part of my own personal history that felt like it was erased with him going. It's like, wow, his death left a hole in my heart big enough to walk through. And everything that I've gone through with him, and I got to be there when he received his diagnosis of being terminally ill, to the actual death, and that he was taken from his home for cremation. So that death just really stayed with me, and I had a good support system. I was in practitioner training studies in class, and just really had a lot of good support from classmates and prayer partner and the instructors of the class. So I felt truly supported during that time. And so my brother died in February, and then in the middle of the summer, June, July, for various reasons, my husband and I packed up, gave all our things away. We gave most of them away and moved to Ireland. And it's like Ireland. It's like, yes, I have a daughter that lives in Ireland, and I don't know, it's just this a voice. And I don't even use this term, the voice of God, but it was a voice in the middle of the night that said, oh, Bonnie, just give everything away. Go to Ireland, live in the countryside with your daughter, Kelly, and her husband and baby. And the thing about that, it was the middle of the pandemic of all times to go. But none of that even weighed heavy in my psyche. It was just, okay, it's time to go. Various reasons, as I said, I won't go into it here. But just that it felt like it was just time to go. And so we went, and we were in Ireland during the pandemic, and being in the Irish countryside. Oh, if you have to be on lockdown, if you have to be restricted in your movements and activities, there is no other place that's more beautiful than Ireland. We were in the Irish countryside, and not a little town, it's the second biggest town in Ireland, and it's called Drogheda. And we were out in Termafeckin and just really enjoying it. And then I just received a call one day. This was in December, so we'd been there for 3 months in Ireland, and received a call from my sister, Crystal, who said, oh, Linda, that's our oldest sister. She was in a convalescent home. Or skilled nursing. And she said she'd just gotten a call from the skilled nursing facility that Linda had a cardiac arrest, and they were working on her, and that she would call me back and let me know what was going on. So every minute felt like a year, and I'm sure it was less than 5 minutes. And I just couldn't wait another second, and I called her and I said, well, what's going on with Linda? What's going on with Linda? And she said, she didn't make it. It's like, what do you mean she didn't make it? It's like she died. She had a sudden cardiac arrest, just out of the clear blue. She had been ill and on dialysis, but not in any grave condition or on life support, any of those things, but just that she died. And it was the middle of the pandemic. There was no going back to the US to go to a funeral or have a funeral. There wasn't anything. It was just this devastation. And I remember just feeling just numb. You know, when we talk about grief and people talk about numbness, I just felt numb. I felt so numb. I just remembered my last conversation with her. It was on a Sunday and she died on a Thursday. But I just remember our last conversation, and she was just very, very tearful and just crying, just not even crying, just sobbing. And my husband was sitting there with me, Tito. And Tito was saying to her, oh, Linda, please don't cry. Please don't cry. And I just remember feeling like, wow, I don't really feel anything. And I felt more upset with myself for not feeling anything with someone here crying their heart out. And so I said to her, and I called her Cookie, and I said, Cookie, can I just pray with you? And her first answer was, no, I don't want you to pray with me. She says, you can pray for me, but I don't want you to pray with me. And that was our last conversation. And I said I would pray for her, which I did. And then just imagine, 3 days later, I get the call that she's gone. And so that was like losing 2 siblings. I mean, but I lost 2 siblings. Like in the span of 10 months, 2 siblings. And I have 1 sister and 1 brother that's still alive and with me now. But that has been such when I talked about history being erased, it feels like a big part of my history has been erased, especially with my sister Linda. She had the memory of an elephant. I could call her and ask her, do you remember? And she would have the history. Or if I didn't have it right, oh no, Bonnie, you can't remember anything. So I just really miss having her, even now, to call and say, hey, can you jog my memory around X, Y, and Z? So there I was in Ireland, as I said, having lost 2 siblings, also having lost a lifestyle. I was quite happy with my home in California. There wasn't anything going on that I needed to get away from. There wasn't any of that. I had a good life. I was happy. But needless to say, I found myself in a space and place that I had never been before. Never. I found myself not finding joy in the things that I used to find joy in. Not being content or truly happy. I just felt this just hollowness, a numbness. And I termed it as a dark night of the soul. That's what I called it, a dark night of the soul. I just started reading as much as I could on Dark Night of the Soul. I talked to a couple of my really spiritually conscious friends around it, and they didn't quite agree with me that it was a dark night of the soul. And I'm a pretty strong personality, so I didn't need them to affirm for me that it was a dark night of the soul or wasn't. I knew that it was a dark night of the soul. It was a dark night of the soul for me. And I just remembered a couple passages from Reverend Michael Beckwith when he talked about a dark night of the soul. And it was within a class that I had taken some years before. It wasn't even anything recent, maybe like 5 years before. I had taken a class and they had talked about a dark night of the soul. And I remember him saying that if you're going through a dark night of the soul, still do things for others. Still do things for others. The other aspect of it was to say, if the circumstances do not change, if they're never going to change, what qualities do I need to have? What do I need to become to be able to continue in this darkness, if that's what I want to say? What would I need? And at that time, I just thought to do things for others. I was really good, especially as being a nurse and a coach, of just comforting people that are going through difficult times. That was my solace during that time. And it just never failed. It would always come to pass that it was always around loss and grief that I was comforting people during that time. And it's like, wow, that is just so what I enjoy doing. Yes, I could do that. And as I was preparing to give my own little talk, I thought, I'll go back and see if I can find that quote from Michael Beckwith. But what I found, and I didn't even realize it until now, that's why sometimes telling our own stories, it gives us time to review and to look at our lives with a fresh lens. Because one of the points that he makes when he talks about a dark night of the soul is that it's dark because you're no longer who you were or who you used to be. And you're not who you're going to become. You're in this place of darkness. And I just thought, wow, I can see that now, because I had given up that lifestyle in California. I had the loss of two siblings, and my brother-in-law who was young, and also my daughter had a baby that was born premature, Oliver, and he had died during that time. So it's like, yes, I can see that I was no longer who I had identified with and who I thought I was, and the morphing in to a new person, bringing that forward with me, that yes, that's still a part of me. And I say it was during that time and shortly after that gave birth to Your Doula for Grief. That it was with this darkness, being in that dark time one. So when I say that grief is transformative, I speak from personal experience and personal knowing that yes, there is a transformative power that only grief holds. I would say that, another term that I would use when I was going through that, I would say, I feel like I'm in the spiritual chrysalis, the chrysalis of the butterfly and morphing. And there's a lot of, yucky stuff going on in that chrysalis, but there's a lot of beauty that's being birthed in that chrysalis. And so now, being on the other side of that grief with Your Doula for Grief, which is tomorrow, the anniversary of Your Doula for Grief. It has been 1 year that I have been doing this broadcast. 1 whole year. And it just gets more exciting and just more wonderful things to come, more wonderful guests to experience and be with, and just so many more wonderful ideas that I have around healing from grief. As I've talked to you about before, that I am a licensed soul collage facilitator, and I won't take too much time to explain all of soul collage. You can look that up, soul collage, just like it sounds.com, and it can fill you in on all the intricacies of soul collage. But that is, workshops coming forward with healing your grief with soul collage. Workshops, spas, retreats, so many wonderful, wonderful ideas are being birthed right now, right as I sit here and speak to you around grief. And that's my story of becoming a grief doula, is by having lived through it, walked through it, in observation around it. And I would say this, there were, during this dark night of the soul, I co-facilitate with Zoe DeMoro and Susan Brecker out of Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. We have a monthly group that meets, and it's calm, compassionate attention to loss ministries. I still did that. Even during my dark night of the soul, and continuing to do that. I also started a spiritual circle during that time of the dark night of the soul that's still going. I just love, I love the members that are in my circle. And so I never stopped doing while I was in that dark night of the soul. I had no idea when it would end, and there were times that it felt like it would never end, but at least finding opportunities that I could still allow myself to engage with other people. So, and I just say to you that if you're going through your dark night of the soul, I am here to offer you, or to affirm for you, that yes, you do have what it takes to move forward. You will not be taken under by your grief. All that you need to do is reach out. Have someone to talk to. If you don't have someone to talk to, reach out for professional help. If you feel that this has gone on for a long time and you're now feeling somewhat that it's complicated grief. And it's not complicated. It just needs to be heard. It needs to have a space and place to be opened and have it come out. So do reach out for help. If you're feeling you don't have someone to talk to. And I remember in my own situation when I said I was going through a dark night of the soul, it was like during the day I was the household cheerleader, like cheering everybody on and good for you. And at night I was just I called it a sad mess, that I was just really sad and tearful. And sure, I wish that I never had to go through any of that, but I have gone through it. And now, seeing the gift that was there, the gift of the beauty of that. And I want to take a break, but right before we take a break, I'm going to have to jiggle things here a minute. I want to just read you something. And the reason I want to read it is because I feel that it talks it addresses so much the transformative power or the transitional parts of grief. And so this is from Ayala Van Zandt, Acts of Faith. And it starts with, those who don't know how to weep with their whole heart don't know how to laugh either. Golda Meir. When we lose a loved one to death or in a long-term relationship, it is perfectly normal to grieve. We must honor and recognize each stage of the grief and every emotion we have. There will be shock, denial, anger, confusion, fear, helplessness, numbness, and eventually acceptance. There will be a point when we do not know what to do, but we want to do something. At that point, we must understand and accept there is no death. There is no end. There is only transformation. Our loved one now exists in a new time, a new place, a new reality, and so do we. The relationship as we know it has been transformed from the physical to the spiritual, from marriage to separation, from loveship to friendship. It has not ended. It has changed. When we allow ourselves to grieve, we release the negative thoughts and emotions that make it easier to accept the change. When we do not grieve, we get stuck. Grief is natural and normal and to be expected. We owe it to ourselves and the memory of the relationship to grieve and cleanse our soul. The affirmation is, I will take time to grieve and prepare myself for the change. And the reflection is, if you were talking to a Martian, how would you describe grief? What is the blessing hidden in grief you would tell it to look? Yeah, so just take a minute and let those words just wash over you. Just breathe them in. And with that, we will take a break and come back. And that is my story on how I became your doula for grief.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment. inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment, and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
Hello. Welcome back. I am still your doula for grief, Bonnie Gonzalez. And I am living here right now in Jalisco, Mexico, in Ajijic, Mexico. And it's a smaller community, so most people know about this program here. And I see people and they're just willing to share and say how much they appreciate the program. And yesterday, I ran into a friend who was one of the first people that I met when I came here in 2021, and just embraced myself and my husband, Tito. She's a musician, and her name is Cristina Trejo, and she's just a lovely being, a musician, beautiful piano player. And I saw her at the end of last summer, and the love of her life, Mimo, was killed in a motorcycle accident. And she was totally crushed, just truly, truly devastated. And, holding that space in my heart for Christina, and deep, deep condolences and much love to her. But she shared with me yesterday something that has come forth from her grief. She has written this beautiful book of poetry, and it's entitled Take Care of the Good by Cristina Trejo. And I wanted to share one of the poems and she wrote this book. And I hope I get it right. It's hand sewn. It's a handmade book, and it's hand sewn with thread there. I don't know if you can see that. But anyway, it's just absolutely beautiful. I call it a labor of love. And this has been a part of her grief and grieving recovery. And she is in recovery, not that. We know that grief is... It's always there. It's always there. And not to be gotten over or through or moved on from. She is moving on with this, not moving on from it. She's moving on with her dear loved one in her heart. And this is the first poem in the book, and it's called The Wise Ones Know This. The wise ones know this. To grieve deeply is to praise and love life. I did not come here this time around to eat crumbs off the surface. I would rather cry a million tears than to become an asshole any day. Because only a trusting heart can feel the gravitation of loving hands, a community of mutual respect. And maybe I am protected by my innocence, but I hear goodness in the light and the dark and everything in between. So when I say this. I say it with complete freedom. I am alive and I am not afraid to feel it. Christina, thank you so much with that poem. This is from the book, Take Care of the Good. And the first poem that I read was The Wise Ones Know This. And the wise ones know that grief does bring its own gifts with it that cannot be experienced without having moved through that grief. So I thank you, Christina. And I know one other person, my sister, also Crystal Higgins, writes poetry after losing her beloved Bill. So what is the gift? I leave you with, yes, I leave you with that. We've all been in grief around something at some point in time. And if you could look at it if you could take a loss from a distance and look at it with a lens now, what would you say the gift has been? What would you say the gift has been? I'm really not asking you to take a fresh grief, a fresh loss. If you've just lost someone really close to you, or just lost that job last week, or just got divorced, 2 months. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to reflect and review on something that has been a while, that has some distance, that you can see, that you can see now, see that grief with a new set of eyes, with a different lens. So I offer you that. I offer you that. And I offer to, let's just start making grief something that we talk about. Not even waiting till you see your doula for grief on the street. When you see another friend, hey, how's it going? How are you after the loss of whatever? How are you moving through whatever? Yes, to just say. If you don't know what to say, you can always just say, I am here for you. I am here for you. So with that said, I would like to offer some upcoming information. I am going to be presenting at the Vista conference that's going to happen on February 20th through the 23rd, 2023. And that's not next week. It is next week. Oh my gosh, it's next week. Yes. So I am going to be presenting on February 21st at 1:45, and that's Mountain Time. So here, Central 2:45, and wherever you are, figure out the time difference from 1:45 Mountain Time, Pacific Coast, it'll be 12:45. So please join me. I'm going to be presenting on the healing and the transformative powers of grief. I ask that when you attend my workshop, bring a candle, bring a journal, and bring something that's going to be used as your grief touchstone. Okay? So that is Vista Conference, and that's coming up on February 20th through the 23rd. Joe, I don't know if you have the banner, but I also, as I said, I talked about in my story, co-facilitating CALM, Compassionate Attention to Loss Ministries. And that is once a month. It's the first Sunday of every month. And it is at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Pacific time, which would be 2 p.m. Mountain Time, but 1 p.m. Pacific time. And that can be found on oaklandcsl.org. Oakland, the city of Oakland, csl.org under events. And it will take you to it'll take you to the events page. Go to the events page and you will find CALM, CALM, Compassionate Attention to Loss Ministries. So just happy to be able to offer you that service. And if you are interested, we had a guest on a Wiccan priestess, a couple weeks ago, and I kept calling her Silver, Silver, but she was on, and she's interested in also starting a compassion and attention to lost ministries. So if you are interested in that, please contact me, and I will send you information at Bonnie Gonzalez 14 at gmail.com. So would love to be able to put you in touch with the right people or giving you ideas as to how to move forward with that. And I did want to just leave you with a couple ideas of some things to do as we move through our collective grieving process. I wanted to just offer just some self-care tips and techniques, or just some things to do. And I know it's not anything complicated, not anything you can't do. As I said, we're all in this collectively. We're all in this together. So allowing yourself not to be overloaded or overwhelmed, because we are in this time, a collective loss. We also have our personal losses going on, which puts us into cumulative. So cumulative and collective. So to prevent feeling overwhelmed, go for a walk for 20 minutes, or just sit in the sun for 20 minutes. Garden if that's what you do. Oh, just open a window and let in some fresh air. I know a lot of people that are working from home and working remotely. Just open up a window, pull the curtains back, let the light shine in. Be reminded that we are right here on planet Earth right now. Be active. I know so many of my friends that love to hike and explore and bike. And yes, be physically active. Put on some headphones and listen to some music. Read a book. And I love reading, but I was telling someone you'll know the second you walk in my home that grief is a big theme, because that's most of my books are on grief. So I'm going to say, read a book, do some escapism, some, mysteries or romance novels. Watch a funny movie. Just do something that makes you laugh. Watch a funny movie. And deliberately unplugging. Turn that phone off for a day. Shut down the computer. Don't respond to emails after work. Don't let that be the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning as well. Get a hobby. Journaling is what saved me during my dark night of the soul, being able to journal and doing soul collage. So for me, it was journaling and art that really saved my sanity during those times. Photography, ceramics, baking, cooking. Oh, if all else fails, take a nap. Meditation is always there. Make a date with yourself. The artist way, you have to take yourself on an artist date at least once a week. Take yourself on a date. You can always volunteer to donate some items in your home, fundraisers, do things that make you laugh. Get organized. Clutter is one of those things that holds negative energy. So get organized. Get rid of that clutter. Okay? Take a bath. Find solitude in whatever you do. Whatever you do that makes you feel totally taken care of and it's just for you. Slow down. Find ways to feel close to your loved ones with memories. So those are the things that I offer you today. Your doula for grief. Offering you tips to take care of you. So be gentle with you. And as I said, I'm leaving you with, what are the gifts of grief? What are the gifts of grief? So with that said, I say so long, farewell. I'll see you next week. And again, I'm available for grief coaching and to help doula you through that pain, to get you through that pain and on to the other side. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.